What is the hope of the Nigerian youth? Minister of Youth and Sport speaks to us exclusively tonight about the International Youth Day and the inclusion of Nigerian youth in governance and politics. And of course, the military today reeled out its successes in the past few weeks as insurgents surrender and major arrests made. We take a closer look with experts on anti-terror war in Nigeria. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. So much to give to you tonight. So let me get to it quickly, everyone. Before we get into it, the Minister of Sport and Youth will be talking to us about the International Youth Day and what the Bhuari government is doing to the average Nigerian youth to take away the issue of unemployment and youth restiveness. So stay with me, everyone. Plus, I have a panel that will be dissecting what has happened in the past few weeks. As the defense headquarters said, they've done a lot. We look at those things they said they've done. We have a whole list for you. Stick with me, everyone. Let's tell you first about your political roundup stories.
The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says the estimated construction cost of the second Niger bridge was put at about 206 billion naira when the contract was awarded in 2018. But presently, the revised course for payment will be approved by the federal government. The minister says he's satisfied with the pace of work at the site of three major project construction ongoing in Anambra State, undertaken by the federal government. They are the Federal Secretariat, the Owerri interchange of the Anambra axis of the second Niger bridge and the second Niger bridge, which are at different stages of completion. According to the minister, each will meet up with the completion deadline.
He assures us, I think,
yes,
that by February next year, the entire length of the bridge will be fully connected. So you can walk from Asaba to the Onitsha end. What will just be left now is finishing work.
And Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State has blamed the rising cases of regional and sectional agitations on the seeming inability of the APC-led federal government. Governor Otom insists that the PDP has resolved its crisis with the planned October 2021 early national convention by the present National Working Committee of the party. He urged Nigerians to be patient and see the alternative the PDP is presenting to them following what he described as the failure of the APC to meet the expectation of Nigerians.
We cannot afford to fail Nigerians by not providing an alternative platform as we march towards 2023.
A group within the ruling APC in Osun State, known as the Osun Progressives, has cried out to the security authorities, both state and at the federal level, on threat to lives and property of its members. The group disclosed this during a press briefing at the state capital of Osun State, Osogbo, organized by the faction of the party in the state.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get straight to it. Today is August the 12th, and it is the International Youth Day. The International Youth Day is celebrated and observed every year on the 21st of August across the world. The day is marked for giving new initiatives and action taken by the youth. And also, on this day, the government and citizens come together to bring attention to the problems faced by the younger generation. Tonight, attention is on that subject, especially asking the question on what the Bhuari government promised the Nigerian youth and what they have delivered. I'm being joined on the program tonight by the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dare. He joins us from his office in Abuja. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight. And it's a pleasure for seeing you since you came back from the Olympics. Thank you so much. Let's get straight to it. It's the International Youth Day. But the question on the minds of an average Nigerian that is looking towards employment, jobs, opportunities. Many of them are looking for visas to travel out of the country. Issues of where they will go after their youth service corps program, the 1-year mandatory NYC program. These are some of the questions on the minds of an average Nigerian. And if you look at the unemployment rate today, as we speak, it's not a figure that one can be happy about. The question tonight, Honorable Minister, is what has the Bhuari government done in the last 6 years to turn down the clock of the growing unemployment rate in Nigeria and the possibility of opportunities for an average Nigerian youth?
Thank you very much, Sheung, for this opportunity. And I want to first just congratulate all our youth on the International Day of the Youth being celebrated today. Of course, a symbolic event that draws attention to the skills, the talents, and also the issues concerning youth development. Now, the questions you raise agitating the minds of our youth, they are legitimate questions. Legitimate issues around what will happen after I leave college? What will happen if I'm looking for a job? How long will it take for me to get a job? And I think that in the last 6 years, the government of President Muhammadu Bhuari has tried to change the fundamentals of youth development in our country. I speak to a new orientation that emphasizes not just certificates, but also the need to upskill our youths. In a digital world where it's very clear that there's a digital skills gap, we have seen a government that has paid attention to a concept of training into enterprise, that we need to upskill our youths, provide them training, but also training that leads into entrepreneurship or some kind of process that makes them self-starters. Now, Sheung, I can speak to almost 30 to 35 different youth-focused programs in the last 6 years under this president. They are domiciled in about 8 to 9 different ministries. And then you find them in departments and agencies of government. I can also speak to the fact that under the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, we have seen an attempt to start to invest in the skills, innovative ideas, enterprise of our youth, which is critical for development. That coincides perfectly with the focus of the AFDB. We talk about the NYIF that was signed by the President in Council July last year, a 75 billion naira youth investment fund for the first time that will invest directly in the skills and ideas of our youth. That's taking a bet on our youth. Recall that 5 years ago, the N-Power was also launched, the single largest youth empowerment program in sub-Saharan Africa. That is ongoing. The National Farmers Program, Young Farmers Program is ongoing. I can speak on and on. But I think what's important is that this government has tried to change the fundamentals of youth engagement, to move from just merely empowering our youth to investing in them. And that's the paradigm shift that we see even the global community, especially when you look at the UN and you look at the Africa Development Bank. The focus is on investing in our youth because our youth are investable, and we can take a risk on our youth because they have the talent and they have the commitment to succeed.
So it's good that, some of these initiatives, but the question is that not only the efforts, because in a chain of activity, it's not only what you put in, it's also what you get out of it. So if you look at the unemployment rate, Honorable Minister, it's growing every year. Take, for example, from 2017, 8.39, 2018, 8.45, 2019, 8.53, 2020, 9.0%. That is your unemployment rate. If you say all of these have been put in place, but the figures are saying the different thing, how do you justify it to the Nigerians that you are serving?
Well, Sheung, it also boils down, without giving any excuses, it boils down to, it's a function of resources. We have seen government resources over time dwindle. When you also go to other countries where you find unemployment stabilized maybe for a while, it's a collaborative effort on the part of government, on the part of the private corporations working together, on the part of international NGOs working together. On our part here, you've seen government really try to allocate resources. They're competing resources. It's a huge country, 210 million people. The youth form a large part of this population. But also, we're trying a reset that emphasizes not just certificate, but that emphasizes skills, vocational and technical skills. That is the future of jobs. That's the future of decent jobs by the ILO, International Labour Organization, and the United Nations. The emphasis is making sure that we have technical and vocational skills. There are jobs out there that some of our graduates and our youth cannot take up because these jobs are digital jobs. Unless you have this added advantage of digital skills, you cannot pick up this job. And that's why the focus right now is making sure that we provide our youth with the digital skills they need to compete. Even when you go out of the country, as a Nigerian youth, you are going to need this digital knowledge and skills. And I think the concentration now, we're going to see that trajectory change, because I've seen in the last 2 years and 3 years, effort at deliberately making sure that we train our youth and give them digital skills. Shewon, as we speak, in the last 2 weeks, the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development commenced the training of 5,000 Nigerian youth across 6 geopolitical zones in our country on green stimulus, robotics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and a couple of other digital skills. And like I said, it's an end-to-end thing, training into enterprise. Once you're trained, you're not just turned into the job market. You're provided the toolbox that you need, the finance and credit you need to become a self-starter, a wealth creator, employer of labor, and then eventually you can get off the unemployment market and also begin to employ other youth to work with you. Now, we'll have to just be patient because resources are dwindling, but efforts are on, concerted efforts at all levels to make sure that we bring down the unemployment numbers in our country.
So I'll take a look at quickly on one of the things that you said, the CBN job initiative, the youth investment fund that you spoke about. It was launched in cabinet last year. It's a 75 billion youth investment program. But as of May-June this year, just about 2 billion are so far been recorded to have been disbursed to about 5,000 or so Nigerian youths. 75 billion, that's the target, but only 2 billion out of that fund has been disbursed. Can you give us an update on that?
Absolutely, Sheung. Of course, let me explain. It's 25 billion naira per year, and its target is for 3 years. So cumulatively, it's 75 billion, so 25 billion naira per year. What we've done so far, remember that this is a loan, is a soft loan, single digit. It's not a grant. When it comes to a loan, there are processes that you have to go through, because eventually after the 1 year moratorium, any youth that takes this loan will have to pay back. And those processes do take them. We're being careful because most of our youth also believe that this is a grant. It's important to make sure that they understand it's a loan. It's important that we follow the financial processes to make sure that we do not run into any stormy weather. We've had just about 5,225 approved for the loan. And that's because we've also had a bit of technical issues with the processes of application, which we have already fine-tuned. And I assure you that when we open up that site again, we're going to be able to ratchet up the number of Nigerian youth that will benefit from the NYIF. I think it's important to note that this is the first time a government is giving our youth single-digit loan, investing directly in their innovative skills, their enterprise, and the ideas they have for businesses. I think that is very important. And I think that as many as of our youth that have applied themselves to this process will ensure that they get some funding. It might not be the exact figure that they expect, but they will get some funding.
Let me take you to the aspiration of so many Nigerian youths today, aside the fear of getting out of school and not being able to get a job, and how they can get a living, eke out a living in a very difficult economic situation, is also their place in politics and governance in Nigeria. Well, here is an APC government that promised that it will have a very strong inclusion of the Nigerian youth in cabinet. Not only that, also in government. But if you look at it, Honorable Minister, you are perhaps one of the youngest in cabinet. and you are way over 50 years. So the question will be, what is the hope of an average Nigerian youth under the Bhuari government?
Well, I think there's great hope. Under the Bhuari government, this same president, Muhammadu Bhuari, was the one that signed the Not Too Young to Run bill for our youth. That opened a door for our youth to be able to participate in politics at all levels. That was monumental and significant. And we've seen several of our youth walk through that door to become councillors, to become elected officers of the local government, the House of Assembly, and even at the National Assembly. That is significant. Now, beyond that, beyond political offices or elective offices, there are other areas in which our youth can also participate. Of course, we know that a gradual process of inclusion is necessary, but it's not only by political appointments alone. The elective offices that we have is critical. And I'm sure that if our youth apply themselves to these processes, they have an opportunity. As it is now, the youth of this country must be more assertive. They must also participate directly. They must not play second fiddle. They must seize the opportunities open to them, either in the political space, in the economic space, wherever they find them. There will be a room for political appointments. We want to see a greater inclusion of our youth. And I'm sure quite a number of our youth also, in the last 3 years, have been able to make their way into political appointments. That will increase over time. It's going to be just gradual. But I think that we should look beyond just political appointment for our youth. Look for their inclusion and participation, because we live under a democratic dispensation that gives any Nigerian youth who is convinced that he has an idea to step forward and also compete for any elective office. And I think that would be significant.
So perhaps the likes of yourself is going to be the youngest we might see in this cabinet. No hope of a younger person in this government. That's what it looks like, isn't it?
Seun, that's an absolute assumption. You know, I know that in this government, if you look beyond just being a minister, if you look at board members, if you look at some parastatals and agencies, they are being run by people who are about 40. You look at the AFCC chairman is just 40. And you just look at the data very closely. So we have young people in various positions in this government. And we just want to see that the number is ratcheted up. We want to see more of them in these political positions. But again, I emphasize that there are more elective positions than you have political positions. And I think most of our youth are brilliant enough. They are quite aware of the issues around our political development, and that if they put themselves through the system, that they will be able to get elected and they can impact the system for the better and make laws for our country.
The NYC scheme is one way the government is directly working, and it's from the late 70s up to now. That effort is aimed at uniting Nigeria. And with what we're seeing, coronavirus has posed a very big trouble in terms of deployment. But latest report that we are hearing about coronavirus and infection rates in some of the camps. What can you tell us, Minister, about the decision of government in this respect?
Well, I just, this morning I had a meeting with the DG of NYC to review the COVID-19 situation across the camps, NYC camps across the country. And even from the NCDC report, we see a commendation from the NCDC because of the regime of surveillance that has been put in place across the NYC camps. It's almost a rule of the thumb. Once anybody tests positive for COVID-19, you are not even allowed into the camp. You are turned up immediately, isolated. And if along the line there's constant testing, they find anyone with COVID-19, that person is isolated. I think the NYC camps are no different from the society in which we also live in. But also, they have more stringent measures in these NYC camps. And I think some of the data that is collected there have been so useful to the work of the NCDC. So on a continuous basis, as even the larger society battles with the containment of COVID-19 through non-pharmaceutical processes, we have the NYC running a regime that is effective and has worked so well in the last 6 months.
In the mood of the International Youth Day, I came across a lot of names of Nigerians, of a lot of the athletes of Nigerian descent who competed for several other countries. How does that make you, as a Minister of Youth, in the willingness of people of Nigerian descent competing for other nations?
Well, you know, it makes me feel jealous. It makes me feel bad because ordinarily I would have expected them to wear Nigerian colors. But also, you know, the decision to run, the decision to compete, the decision to decide which country's flag you bear is absolutely an individualistic decision that the athlete alone can make. But I think the challenge I've taken away from these growing numbers of Nigerians is to look inward and see what is the system that endeared them to these countries. And we've seen that there's a regime of grants that they get. We've seen that there are sporting facilities that support their training. We also see that they're able to get scholarship for their education. And I think these are some of the things we need to look inward and make sure that we put in place for our youth. I came back with a desire to make sure that we have a program in which our young athletes, the current one and aspiring ones, can benefit from. A program that is sustainable, where the issue of athletes' welfare, the question of grant, scholarship, education, coaching, it's just a package together. Once we're able to present the same package that these other countries are presenting to these athletes, then we can have the hope of being able to retain them and have them wear our colors.
As we wrap up the conversation, Minister, it might not be, since we touch on the issue of Olympics, let me ask you two questions in that respect. One is the outcome of that outing. You've been quoted to have said that is our best in the last 13 years or so. And perhaps 2 medals, that's the feat that we've seen. But your critics will say that's shambolic. That's, Olympics is supposed to be a joy of participation. Well, as a nation that is a giant of Africa, a lot of Nigerians believe that they deserve more. Are you disappointed in that outing?
Sheon, I am inspired by the outcome of our participation in the last Olympics. Inspired because I see greater possibilities. Again, it's the Olympics. Did I expect that we will win more medals? Absolutely. That was the expectation of virtually every country that went there. But also, it's also a function of what you put into your system. You talked about Nigerian athletes wearing the colors, Nigerians wearing the colors of other country. I think it's also a function of the kind of infrastructure in place, the kind of equipment, the kind of grants they have enjoyed. We do not have that kind of grant. A process has started already through our Adopt an Athlete program. We've seen several of our athletes, about 21 of them, get direct funding that has helped them. There have been testimonies to the fact that just through those adoption programs, some of them said that was the tonic they needed to be able to excel. And we saw quite a number of them excel. So, yes, I expected that we will have won more medals. But I also know that the efforts that were put on, I have absolute respect for every Nigerian athlete that went out there to compete. The Olympics, it's the highest level of competition, 205 countries, the best of the best. And I think that we can just build on the successes we have recorded so that when we head to France 2024, we will be able to do better.
74th, 74th position, Honorable Minister, and the kind of money running to over $1 billion that was expended in that respect. What would you say that is the major problem? Because administrative issue came out as one of the issues there and was embarrassing to the nation, to say the least.
Sheon, my response would be that 2 days ago, I gave a very detailed, personally signed, detailed response. In that response I gave, all the answers are there. We've returned. We've started work already. set up committees, we're doing reviews. There are programs we have started already, we're going to aggressively pursue them. So showing in that statement I gave 2 days ago, it was detailed, it was deliberate, so that we can get everybody on the same page. It's also important to make sure that people really understand what, the sports development and administration is, what the issues are. It's not just anybody that really knows what's happening. And I think that in that statement, I was very careful, I was very deliberate in trying to provide some answers, also trying to show the steps that have been taken and the paths to the future.
Yes, because if you need to show the path to the future, also we need to know those who need to take the blame. Because if money is spent, energies are put in this place, we need to know who to hold responsible and perhaps name and shame. But again, another thing that comes on the table, Honorable Minister, is the Puma deal. And what happened when an athlete came and said, I had only one jersey to compete with. And there are jerseys and materials to be used, and they're there, and Nigerians are outraged about that. How do you respond to that Puma deal?
Sharon, again, that matter is sub judice. I'm unable to comment on the Puma deal. Again, I was very clear about that in my statement, subject of litigation. It involves the AFN and Puma. This is the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, and I would like to leave it at that.
Okay, but the reason why I'm asking is because, the AFN is also under the ministry and the buck stops at your table. And for Nigerians who are watching you, who hold a lot of respect for you, Honorable Minister, and a level of integrity, they are hoping to hear an answer tonight when they heard that I was going to have a conversation with you. Can you give them somewhat a convincing answer tonight, Honorable Minister?
Well, when you say convincing answer, is it about the Puma deal or something else? Again, like I said, there's litigation on the Puma deal. It's just the practice, it's sub judice. I can't really comment on it. Again, whatever was signed was between the AFN, very clear, the AFN and Puma. The Ministry of Youth and Sport did not sign any document with Puma. And I want to leave it in that realm. But, what I can say, and I've said it in my statement, is very clear. Apologies have been made. Investigations are ongoing. We've set up a commission that started work already. We're taking the necessary steps. And I think that is where we need to take it from, to make sure that we do not have a repeat of what has happened before, but also to allow the processes that are in place to take place so that we can get the facts of the situation.
On that note, I must sincerely thank you, Honorable Minister, for your time tonight. But let me convey the message of some Nigerian youths to you. In 2018, the president, when he was signing the Not Too Young to Run bill, he told Nigerian youths that wait until after I run in 2019 before you run against me. If you may, and convey the message to the president that Nigerians are waiting to hear from him again whether or not he will vote and put the hand of the youth up, perhaps in the APC, come 2023. On that note, I must sincerely thank you, Honorable Minister, for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me.
Thank you. We'll take a break, everyone. And when we return, my panel already set. Senator Ali Indume, Major General Henry Ayola, and Mr. Dennis Amakri. They are my panel tonight. Our attention will be on the terror war and the President Bhuari's strategy. What will it be? Find out after now, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back. The Defense Headquarters today says that the arrest of one Musa Adamu, a bomb expert, who is also known as Mala Musa Abuja, 2 weeks ago has helped the military to deplete Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists in the northeast. The acting director of Defense Media Operations, Brigadier General Bernard Onyeko, says that this is some of the efforts being made by the Nigerian military in quenching the efforts of the terrorists. According to him, no fewer than 1,000 terrorists and their families surrendered to the military at different locations. He also says that a combination of air and ground troops at various theaters of operations helped to neutralize bandits and rescue several abductees in their custody. Take a listen to him briefly.
Headquarters of Operation Hadinkai has intensified its operation in the Northeast Theater. The intensity of these operations has yielded tremendous results, as evidenced in the number of casualties and massive surrender of terrorists. Cumulatively, the operations led to the neutralization of 27 Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters, arrest of 51 Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province terrorists, no fewer than 1,000 terrorists and their families, comprising adult females, children, surrendered to own troops at different locations in the Northeast.
The Defense Headquarters perhaps is bringing out some of these details for the first time in a long time, and it's worth digging into. We have details of what they said they've done, and this is just between July to 29th and today, and there's a lot to look at. Let me just flip the pages for you. From Operation Hadinkai, you look at what they said they've done. Neutralization of 27 Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters, arrest of 51 of those terrorists and 3 terrorist collaborators, and rescue of 29 abducted civilians. The recoveries are there for you. If you flip that page to Operation Adarin Daji, you will see yet another set of achievements and successes of the Nigerian military. 2 notorious cattle rustlers named Malambuda Umar from Niger Republic, and the rest you can see for yourself, the recovery. And if you look at Operation Safe Haven, you see yet another success recovered just in about a month by the Nigerian military. Yes, that's a rescue of 2 Fulani herdsmen at Marabantifa town. Operation Wild Stroke is another area that the military says they've recorded some successes. Operation Thunderstrike Wild Punch is another one. Operation Delta Safe is another one. Secessionist activities and what the military said they have done. So much to unpack. When some of these attacks happen, we report them on the news. And it's interesting that the military is coming forward to say, we've achieved some successes, and these are them. So tonight, we're looking at these successes and how they can achieve more, in the sense that we want a safer Nigeria. Tonight, I have a panel that will give us a sense of what this means for our security efforts in Nigeria. Major General Henry Ayola joins us from Lekki area of Lagos. He's a retired military officer. Thank you, General, for joining us tonight. And Senator Ali Ndume is the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army. He joins us from Istanbul in Turkey. And Mr. Dennis Amakiri joins us from New York. Let me get Major General Henry Ayola. A few times we've had you on the program to get your view on the situation of security in the country. But with what the Defense Headquarters have come up with today, what is your immediate reaction to it?
Thank you very much, Shion. Good evening, viewers. I think this is a very cheering news. It's a great opportunity for us all to celebrate, recognize, and commend, indeed encourage our troops right there on the theater and all the other security services that are involved. It goes a long way to alter the trend of operations so far. Let me start by looking at it from the side of our own troops. Usually, when you have new entrants into a theater of war, they come in as force multipliers and enablers. So the change of guard of the service chiefs, some of the new equipment, including the aircraft that have come and other equipment that have been brought into the theater, obviously are paying off. So one of the first things we see is that our troops have seized the initiative. And you say, when you have the initiative, it means you are the offensive. You are on the winning side. And the end result of that is that there is a boost in the morale of the troops. That's a good news for us. Not only that, it gives you an opportunity to now sustain that victory by carrying out exploitatory operations, want to take it further. So you make it a sustainable victory. And that will end up in the areas of some of the other operations that are outside the northeast that are got to deal with the banditry and kidnapping and all of that. Some of the areas that have been used, that have been said to be ungoverned spaces, this gives us an opportunity to break that ice there and see how we can begin to penetrate those areas. That's one other advantage it has brought to the security forces. Of course, again, it's a sure way that there's an attrition of the adversary going on by this win of our forces. The adversary is being reduced in strength, in logistics, and that again gives us another opportunity of boosting our intelligence operations. Because with the number of them captured, or by the time they are interviewed and interrogated, we will gain more intelligence, and that will help further successes in our operations. Not only that, if I look at it from the point of the adversaries, himself, we see that it will change their, call their bluff, really, change their orientation, because, up until now, perhaps they felt they were invincible in certain things or certain areas, but that has been demystified. And, our troops are then in a position to show that, look, we can do it. And we can do it again and again by sustaining this victory. Of course, it will also hinder the logistics of the enemy. Because we see also that some of the areas that they were captured in, and some of the, like the 2 bomb experts that were captured, that means our troops can have better mobility, safer mobility. They can move, in the terrain with freedom of action, which makes it better for us. Of course, it also means that the enemy is no longer in the place to dictate the pace of the operation. Okay, and once we seize the initiative that way, the onus is now on us to sustain that offensive posture and carry it through to the end. So I'm so happy for our troops, and I pray and hope that this winning spirit will continue, and that we continue to encourage our troops to do more, so that we can have a fast track conclusion of these operations.
All right, let me go to Senator Aline Dume. As a politician, also you're chairman of the Army Committee. How does this come to you? You've advocated for more firepower for the military, but what they've done today and what they've said they've done, how does this come to you?
Well, it didn't come to me as a surprise, actually, because I've been saying for a long time that the armed forces and other security agencies of the country are handicapped. Otherwise, they have the capacity and the ability to prosecute this war. Now that what they need is given to them, you can see the result within this short time. And I'm expecting more. It's only that, as I've said before, there shouldn't be blanket amnesty and pamperous treatment to those that surrender. They should carefully be profiled, and there is no hurry in it. But they should be in hurry to capture and end this war, or not really be in hurry to talk about this issue of resettlement, reintegration, and all that. The first step after getting them is to try to resettle the people. And now that the war is getting to an end, or is almost ending, then we talk about profiling, investigating, interrogating those that have surrendered. I think it's a welcome development, and I have confidence that more is to be seen with the new leadership and the new cooperation and interagency cooperation between our various security agencies. This is a very good development, and just as we have been criticizing and we are saying that the army, our armed forces are not doing enough, now that they are doing enough and there is hope and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I think there is the need for Nigerians to come around this time around to support the military by encouraging them, by commending them for what they have done within this short period, and also to commend the leadership of the various armed forces, especially the new team that the president put in place, being it in the police, TSS, and other security agencies, and to expect them to put in more so that first thing, which the Constitution clearly says, will now be achieved. That is to provide security and welfare to the citizens of this country. Without that, we cannot move forward. And with this now new hope, especially in the various regions, northeast, south, northwest, and even southeast, there is a relative calm within these days, and people are full of hope. I think that needs to be sustained, and the security agencies need to be encouraged. I really want to commend them for this effort so far.
Thank you, Senator Alindume. Let me go to Mr. Dennis Amakri. Mr. Amakri, you operated several years in the intelligence community. When you hear neutralization, you hear capturing, it means a lot. It does look like there's going to be a lot of intelligence retrieved from some of these people that have been captured. How far-reaching will this be, and how should the military handle this kind of feat?
Thank you very much for having me. You see, this, first of all, I think I will have to congratulate the Nigerian people, because if you remember very well, they have been agitating for a removal of the service chiefs. And then, of course, after the service chiefs had left the previous ones, and the new team right now had gone out to really, really impress everybody. They've done very well. And then, of course, we've got it to an extent where they are now, in fact, should I say, having people to come and surrender. It's not even capturing, they are surrendering. So that is fantastic, because now when you look at it, just like the senator has said, this is what we want. And as far as you give them all what they need, they will do it. But it is very, very important that all these people that are surrendering should be processed properly. I just don't understand the pictures I saw earlier where they even have posters. Who wrote those posters for them? I don't know. I didn't see any arms that they surrendered with. Fighters who surrender will usually surrender with their arms. I didn't see any arms. Maybe they've taken it somewhere else. But please, let's be very, very honest about this. Process these people very well, interrogate them, and then, of course, this is a basket of intelligence that is coming to the intelligence agencies. As they talk to them, they are going to get more information, to do what they have to do. And then, of course, end this thing quickly.
How would that happen when you say end? How could they do that?
Well, now you see that people are surrendering, and then of course the head actually is cut off. Shekau is no more there. ISWAP, I think, is the one that is sustaining the remainder, and then of course the problem between two of them, the ISWAP fighters and the Boko Haram fighters. So these are aspects that the Nigerian army can actually use, because if the enemy is fighting amongst themselves, of course, they know what to do. We don't have to discuss that on television. But let them go ahead and do it. And then, of course, quickly they said they're using the kinetic and the non-kinetic measures. I think the non-kinetic measure will work tremendously. But let them do what they have to do quickly and take over.
So, General, let me come to you. The military's role majorly in the Constitution is captured as to protect the perimeter, the integrity of the country. With what we've seen today and what the military says they've been able to achieve, the next frontier will be how to sustain, and also prevent. But how would they be able to go about that?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Well, that also sounds like an operational question. Well, they are trained to go about that, and they will know how to go about that. Like Mr. Macri said, when people often say that the military's job is to protect territorial integrity, well, oftentimes we don't join issues with that, but that's not really totally correct, because part of the role of the military is also to partake in internal security operations. So, and they are trained for that. So it's not a problem. They will be able to do that. But of course, one of the things that they have done that will also enhance further operations is the area of civil-military relations, which we saw in Operation Safe Haven and one of the other internal security operations. That in itself enhances success of further operations, because once you have very good community relations with the locals where you are, then of course you can take for granted their support, their willing offering of intelligence and all of that. That will also go a long way to help them. The other aspect is that with the adversary submitting and surrendering willingly, of course, that will diminish their own morale. And of course, in the opposite direction, we boost the morale of our troops. And they can cash in on that, to sustain that the enemy will never regain confidence again. So there are a number of subsidiary operations they can keep on to ensure that. So that is very possible and is workable.
Senator, beyond all of what the military is doing, so we don't reverse the effort of the military, the question of how we can solidify our security architecture in the country is a big question now. The kind of policing that we should have, the kind of federal system that we should operate will also inform how safe and secure our nation can be. So going forward, you are a lawmaker. Where do we go from here? If the military is making successes, politically speaking, what kind of effort should we be expecting?
Well, the effort now is for to reconcile, resettle, and reintegrate the people, because so many people have been displaced and scattered all over. Now that the war is almost getting to an end, and the insurgents are surrendering in droves, I think it is now the time for the government to concentrate more on rebuilding, resettling, and also now helping people to live up and stand up and pick their peace life again. So many people have been displaced. So many people have been, scattered all over the place. We have over 120,000 IDPs or refugees outside Nigeria. We need to start thinking of how to bring them back and how to resettle them. That is the first thing, and reorient them. This reorientation includes making sure that we restore civil authority, especially when we have thousands of youngsters that volunteered to chase this Boko Haram. The military will soon go back to their barracks when this is all over. And therefore, the police, the SS, and others, civil authority have to be re-established and strengthened so that we don't have such an incident again. Actually, what was responsible for the situation we got ourselves is that originally when the DSS, for example, and other internal security organizations were providing information and sounding warning to the government, then they tried to politicize it and ignore it. And that led to this situation, because I must confess that the civil authorities or security agencies, especially the DSS and even the police, are doing, even the military intelligence that are involved, they are doing a lot, provision of information and they provide certain information. Even now, I'm surprised by some of the information I get from the DSS, from police, and other, security agencies. But the problem then was that the authorities and the government, particularly as at then, were not using this. They were more or less politicizing it, looking for scapegoat, and then trying to use it to settle scores. I was a big victim, God saved me. I was in court for 6 years. And while the government was branding me as a sponsor of Boko Haram, they were going to try to look for sponsors of the Boko Haram and spend tons of money there. It's just that God saved my life, that I'm here today. I think the security agencies, especially the DSS and other security agencies in the police, whether should be listened to, their security reports should be taken very seriously. Even now, if that is done, and I must say that part of the success that is being recently recorded is because there is high level of cooperation between the DSS, Air Force, Nigerian Army, police, custom, and every other intelligence organizations that we have around. Government is working as one now, not as individual. There's no less competition between security agencies, unlike before. I think this should be sustained, and this should be strengthened. The institution should be listened to. If we listen to them and strengthen the authorities at the local level, before you know, the DSS will give you information as to what is happening today. In my village, I normally get this information from them.
All right. Thank you, Senator. But we need to wrap up now. And let me get the final word from Mr. Dennis Amakri. We just have about a minute to go. A big congratulations to the military. But we cannot rest, can't we? Where do we go from here? Just a minute before we go.
I think we're just starting. And I think where we are is a very good booster, And then, of course, the most important aspect of this is that if we are synergizing, if all the forces, air-to-ground integration, ground forces intelligence sharing, and as long as this continues, I think we should see an end to this decade-long war. So, I have a confidence in them. And I'm very optimistic that they're going to do their job.
This sharing, and a good one for one to get to bed tonight and perhaps sleep better. Because over 10 years now, this insurgency has ravaged our country, kidnapping, banditry. They are there, and we hope and believe in our military that they're just doing their job and I will come home with victory. Thank you so much, my partner tonight, for your time. Senator Ali Ndume in Istanbul, Turkey. Mr. Dennis Amakri in New York in the United States. And Major General Henry Ayola, retired military officer in Lekki area of Lagos. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. And that's how we close the show today. Many thanks for watching. I'm Shion Kimale. Bye for now.